Distance can be a major barrier to accessing quality healthcare on time. That's where Angel Flight East comes in. Welcome to Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East, a nonprofit dedicated to providing free flights for children and adults who need medical treatment far from home. We don't know how many people forego medical care because they don't have accessible transportation, and that's what this podcast is here to change. Join passionate AFE staff members Jess Ames and Maddie Beck as they share real-life stories from people who have used AFE services to get the care they need when they need it.
Hey, frequent flyers, welcome back with another episode of Takeoff Talk. You're here with me, Maddie.
And me, Jess.
And today we have a passenger with us, Sabra.
Hi, how are you?
We're great. How are you?
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
we're super excited. And this is the first time Maddie and I have seen you face to face. So it's always nice to put a face with a name.
Truly is.
So to get started, can you tell us about your medical journey and how you found Angel Flight East?
Sure. I've been battling salivary gland tumors since the 80s.
Wow.
When we started, there weren't MRIs available. They were measured manually, physically. And then MRIs were available, but they couldn't do digital comparisons. They would actually measure the image on the MRI and compare it. And now, of course, things are much more advanced. And I had a number of surgeries, each one not really successful. And then the thinking changed to wait and see, because my tumor, which turned into tumors, surrounded my facial nerve. And with each surgery, there was more scar tissue and more potential problems of losing movement of half of my face. So I've been doing annual MRIs with my fabulous oncologist here in Rochester, New York. And the last time I went in, he said, there's something that showed up that's new and we don't know what it is. It's on the submandibular, like under the mandible, jawbone. And we have options. We could operate, but that may force us to do something we wouldn't really want to do. Or we could do ultrasound in a while and see what happens. And I thought back to Ann Arbor, where I got my business degree. And we were seated in alphabetical order by last name. And seated next to me was Mary, who ended up becoming one of my best friends. And I called her and I said, "Does your sister still work at Memorial Sloan Kettering?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, we could have a problem." She said, "I'll get right back to you." And in 3 days, I had an appointment. And I called my oncologist and said, what do you think about a second opinion at Sloan Kettering? He said, "Can you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I can." He said, "Okay, well, I think that's a great idea. They'd see a lot more of these than I do. I would really love to know their protocol. That would be super." I thought, well, this is coming together. So I was dealing with the nice people, such nice people, at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and was wandering around their website and saw you could get assistance with your travel to and from MSK. I thought, well, that's interesting. So I went through each of the websites, and one said that we're based on need, but not solely financial need. I said, well, that sounds good. The reason I was so interested to find you is I'm 73. I live alone. I have a 2004 car. And I know that when I got the news at my local oncologist's office, driving home was very difficult. And I couldn't imagine what state I might be in at the end of my Memorial Sloan Kettering appointment and driving home the 4 hours to Rochester. So I contacted your great organization and said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Well, it typically requires more time than we have? I said, I know, I just found out about it. And I managed to delay the appointment a week, but still, they said, let's give it a shot. So I got the forms in, which was easy. And then I got the good news that I was indeed going to get a flight to and from Rochester to Memorial Sloan Kettering in White Plains. I forget the name of the real town, but it's right there.
I think it's Farmingdale, maybe, but
Pardon?
I forget. I think the town might actually be Farmingdale, but I
think
forget.
East Harmon or something like that, but who cares?
Whatever. We still got you there. That's what matters.
Right.
So now, how many flights have you officially taken with Angel Flight East?
2. And
Uh-oh. So this next question is going to be a doozy.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
Wow, that's so hard. You know, the flight from Rochester to White Plains was this wonderful guy out of Buffalo. So that morning he flew from Buffalo to Rochester. I met him at the private airstrip and we talked about the flight. And he said, you know, right now I can't land in White Plains because of fog. I said, okay, well, what happens if the fog's still there as we're making our approach? He said, well, let's get in touch with Angel Flight. I said, great, we'll tell them there is a contingency. Where do you think we would land? He said, well, you know, Poughkeepsie is looking good. I said, well, how far is that? They said, it's about an hour's drive to White Plains. So we called you guys and said, here's the scoop. And it's looking like it could be tight. What can we do? And you amazingly arranged ground transport from Poughkeepsie to White Plains. And we were outside of White Plains, about maybe 45 minutes out. And he said, you know, they're still socked in. I think we need to make a call. We can either circle and hope that we can land, which would maybe put you there on time, or land in Poughkeepsie, which would make you a little late. But if we don't move now, you'll definitely be late. I said, okay, let's do Poughkeepsie. And this is amazing. He texted his wife in Buffalo, who called you and said, they're landing in Poughkeepsie. Can you have ground transport? And sure enough, when we got down to Poughkeepsie, within 10 minutes, ground transport showed up. And it was a nice guy who used to live in White Plains and knew exactly where we were going. And I was 10 minutes late. And the really great thing is I had been able to text my assistant who had called MSK and said, here's the scoop, she's coming, and they were all, oh, we're so glad you're here. This is fabulous. How good is that?
That's awesome.
I actually just looked up who your pilot was, and it was Bruce Morse Ellington, which
Of course it was.
We love him.
I love him too, but he was the return flight.
Oh, he was the return flight.
Right. So Bruce was also adorable. He flew out of
Maryland.
Yeah, he flew out of Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Mountain State.
And he picked me, he let me know when he hit the airstrip in White Plains. And there was ground transport again from Memorial Sloan Kettering to White Plains Airport. And it was out of this, I mean, I used to be in corporate America and I did my share of private terminals, but this one was deluxe. I mean, it had little tesserae tiles and beautiful interior. And when my car drove up, it had this huge hangar-like building, but deluxe, where they opened this rolling door and you pulled in, because heaven forbid we have to step outside in the air. Didn't want to do that. And there he was, and we had a little chit chat, and he flew me back, and we talked about, one of Rochester's claim to fame, garbage plates. Is a restaurant dish, and how much he loved garbage plates. So it was great.
That sounds exactly like Bruce. I think he might have the driest sense of humor we've ever seen, but he is absolutely hilarious. And he always is signing up for Angel Flight. So we love him.
I love him too, but I didn't notice his sense of humor was dry. I'm not sure what that says about me.
I think it means you're our kind of people.
That could be
Yeah.
in real life, I'm a potter. And one thing, I make her little ornaments with mugshots of people on them. And I do a lot of musicians. I don't know why they get arrested. But I had, in talking with both of the guys before the flight, I said, so what kind of music do you love? And so I took a little 2 pockets, one for, I think it was Mahesh, one for Mahesh out of Buffalo and one for Bruce out of Baltimore. And when I met them, I said, so which of these guys you like? And if they dithered at all, I just gave them both. And it was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How would you say Angel Flight East has affected your life?
Oh my God. So this is not the calmest period of my life by a long shot, but you guys removed one whole layer of anxiety. And not only did you do that, but you treated me so well, with such compassion and grace and good humor, and turned something that could have been horrible into an adventure. And I am so thankful. It's interesting. I used to fly the corporate shuttle for Xerox between Rochester and White Plains. So I was used to that. And I would routinely have markers and colored pencils in my briefcase because there would often be a family with a sick kiddo using the shuttle to get to and from an appointment. And we would set them up with paper and drawing stuff. And it was just something painless that we could do. And then, flip to 30 years later and to find myself on the receiving end of care and empathy was just wonderful.
That's awesome. So now, if you hadn't found us, how are you going to get to White Plains?
Dear Lord, I was going to drive. I was going to drive. And I wouldn't have been the world's best driver going there. And I think coming back, I probably would have booked another night in a motel to just try to settle myself. The news wasn't horrible. The news was, you've got a great oncologist in Rochester. I'm signed up to review your images. He's on the right track. We don't know what the answer is, but we're going about it the right way. So, I mean, short of a miracle and everything has disappeared, that was a pretty good message.
Yeah.
So it would have been really difficult. And I don't drive my car long distances as it is. I mean, did I mention it's a 2004 with 170,000 miles? And to layer on that the anxiety of where I was going and why just seems a little bit much.
Especially in New York City traffic, you never know what you're going to get, if it's going to be an easy drive or a drive you never would like to do again.
The good news is that I would have been driving from Rochester, New York, where, I'm sorry, but a 3-minute delay makes radio news. Yeah. And I was driving to White Plains, so I wouldn't have had to go into New York. Otherwise, oh my God, I would have had to tap into an old college friend and say, I'm going to be parking in your driveway and taking the train in, I guess. Yeah.
Oof.
That sounds awful.
It
For
does.
any potential passenger that's listening into this, can you talk about what it's like to fly in a small plane for the first time?
Sure. So I have a cognitive deficit, which makes orientation a little difficult. And I'm 73, so I'm not quite as limber as I used to be. But I wore my stickiest shoes that are good outside when it's raining, which really helps because with the help of your pilot, you're climbing up some footholds and then up the wing and then getting in to the plane. But I managed, although I did find, given my shoes were so sticky, deplaning, it was easier to take them off, put them on the wing, and then step into them. Right? I'm so silly. It's a little noisy, but you have headphones and you're in connection with the pilot the whole way and can talk when they're not talking to a tower, which is fascinating because you can see the different towers that are giving advice on the flight as you're traveling. It's just not, you talk to the tower in Rochester and then you talk to the tower in White Plains. We were a lot of the time in connection with Logan in Boston, which was fascinating. And there are great views outside of the window. They're constantly, because the weather was a little iffy, they were constantly changing speed and altitude to avoid icing, which was great. The only thing I would advise people to keep in mind is bring some gum, because it's not a pressurized cabin and you'll need to pop your ears. But it was fabulous. The views were great. I mean, it was just really spectacular.
Once people fly in a small airplane with us, I feel like they never want to go back to the large American Airlines or Delta flights like that, because it's just not the same.
No, they're not the same. Corporate travel is great. I got to tell you, you don't wait in lines, you don't do TSA, you still get drinks, and it's uncrowded and it's totally pleasant. But small planes are spectacular, and they really remind you that you are in a plane, that you are in the sky, and that you have a remarkably skilled pilot taking care of you.
Who would you say is in your support group besides us?
Well, with you, does it even matter? So there's my friend Mary from business school, and of course her fabulous sister, who was so remarkable to me. And there's my oncologist, my assistant, my local friends. And then it's always interesting. Once a year on Instagram, I put a post with a visual of my MRI and talk about what my journey has been. And usually it's a celebration. This year it wasn't. It was I don't know, but what I know right now is I'm in good hands. It's always amazing to me that there are 100, 200, 300 likes, tons of comments, people really coming out and supporting. It's not something I talk about year round. I'm a pretty private person, but the response is really fabulous.
I need to follow you on Instagram now that you say that.
Okay. Well,
do you also post your pottery creations? I was going to say we might need to order some from you, because we love stuff like that.
And I post lots of images of my cat, because we are the only feline owned business in Rochester, New York.
That's amazing.
Last year I said, Beckett, darling, I mean, I've been working for you for 8 years. I'm your only employee. In God's name, what does it take to be employee of the month? The girl, stop talking and work harder. I'm like, thanks, Bex. So,
I was going to ask who Beckett is, and it's the cat.
It's the cat.
I love that.
That's awesome.
She's kind of a local star. She features in several of our creations. When I take our mugs to the local museum to deliver them, she often insists on going. She doesn't trust me to do it well. She's a girl, she's a cat, she's calico. What can you do?
If you end up flying with us again, we're going to have to make sure you fly with our volunteer pilot, Andy. We actually just interviewed him a couple days ago, and he is a huge cat person. So you guys would get along perfectly.
We would get along so well. And these days, everyone I come in contact with gets my little rainbow kitten button.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Which is indeed starring you know who.
Good old Beckett.
Good old Beckett.
That's awesome.
So smart, so beautiful, so funny, so naughty. Yeah. That's her. How did you find this wonderful organization? How long have you been there? What's it like for you?
Great question. So I originally found Angel Flight in 2018, and I found it through my mother. Like every other good thing to come into your life, it's always stemming from your mother. My mom, for fun, taught a fitness class at the local YMCA. And one of the people who religiously took her class is our executive director, Ellen. And because they were friends for so long, Ellen got to know my sisters and and Ellen knew I was graduating from college, asked if I had a job lined up yet. And my mom was like, no, but she wants one. What do you got? And so the next morning, I was woken up to my mom throwing pamphlets at my bed, telling me, you need to call her. And that's my story. So I originally was hired as the flight coordinator. So I was David, and I connected all the pilots to the patients and did all that fun stuff. COVID came and took us with it. And I switched over to the outreach side of things then. But I love it.
Madeline, that's a great story. Jessica, how about you?
So I've been with Angel Flight for almost 9 years now. It'll be 9 years next February. And I am their top Craigslist find. I found the job posting on Craigslist for their programs and events coordinator. So I started there and then just worked my way up to outreach and events director. So I thought it would just be kind of my first job out of college, but I got hooked. And I can't say enough good things because you can leave work every day and know that you had a small part in helping people get to treatment that they might not otherwise be able to get to.
You save lives is what the two of you do. All of you do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. We try really hard here.
Yeah, it was such a positive experience. And I also must say that Memorial Sloan Kettering, I've never had such a great medical experience in my life. Every single person I encountered saw me. And, at 73, you can tend to be a little invisible. But they saw me and they would stop what they were doing and say, hi, how's it going? Do you need anything? Can I help with anything? Didn't matter what their jobs were. They acknowledged my existence at every step on the way. And it was amazing.
Yeah, we fly a handful of patients to Sloan Kettering, and I think the benefit they have is their resources on the website are easy to find, whereas some other hospitals, they can be a little bit buried. So people may not be getting to their care just because they think they don't have a way to get there and they just kind of give up, which is unfortunate.
It is. From the first time that I called, I had someone managing my case. And he gave me his direct dial, and any wrinkle at any point, he was there to fix it. Just astonishing.
That's the best. Once you find somebody who's really invested as part of your team, it makes the journey so different.
It surely does. As I was hurrying into Memorial Sloan Kettering for my appointment, I looked up and I blinked hard because I saw this vision coming down the hallway. And I blinked hard because it was Barb. It was Mary's sister. But I was like, Sabra, you're really stressed. Barb works in Manhattan at MSK. She's not here. And then she came up and said, oh, hi, Sabra, how are you? I said, what are you doing here? She said, oh, there was a little construction in Manhattan, and I thought it was a good reason to work out of here today. And I was like, oh, you trickster. So that was pretty fabulous. And everyone I met that I encountered, I would say, listen, whatever you do, please tell Barb that I was well behaved today. And one great guy said, I'll do that if you tell her I was also. And I said, deal.
That's awesome.
What is one final thought you would want to leave our listeners with?
We live in a time of fabulous medical research and medical care, but it's not always accessible to everyone. And organizations like yours can really break down barriers and make it so it's not simply for the rich or for the person who's fortunate enough to live within a close distance to a renowned medical facility. So I would tell everyone that there's a lot in this journey that we cannot control, that we do not know, that is uncertain, but that dealing with you is one of the certainties, and that you will do whatever you can to make world-class medical care accessible to all of us.
I love that. That was amazing. Thank you.
Berkeley.
I know I felt the tears
Yeah.
coming on and I didn't want to
Yeah.
cry.
Sabra, I'm trying to keep you. Like, do you want to come with us on other trips too?
Yes, and I want to come here. I think that you really need to tell Angel Flight that you need to go in the field for up close and personal with the people you serve, and we'll go and have garbage plates together. And
Yes.
you say to Bruce, "We had garbage plates too." Nah, nah, nah.
What is a garbage plate?
Garbage plate is actually the brainchild of a restaurant called Nick Tahoe's, which is renowned for celebrity dining because musical acts come to town. They finish up at 11 o'clock midnight. There's no place open, but Nick's is open, and it's a combination. I think it started with white hot, which is a bratwurst, and some baked beans and some mac salad and some coleslaw and some fries and some slices of bread. You get the idea. Piled onto a plate. It's a garbage plate. Yeah.
We could get Bruce to fly us there.
I bet he would.
I have an idea.
It could be fun. I told Bruce next time he was in town to check in. And I would take him someplace fabulous because Rochester has lots of great places.
Twist our arm. I am always up, especially if you include French fries.
Let's do this. And we should make it on a Thursday night. And I should reverse tables and have you on my radio show.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Would that be fun or what?
Sign us up.
We're in.
We talk about anything you want to talk about, and we play the music you love, and we have fun.
We're coming.
Yeah, we're sold. We're going to call
And we
Bruce
have to
today.
meet Beckett.
Must meet Beckett. She's much more interested in people coming through the door than she is in me, because there's always the possibility that they'll be superior servants. She interviews everyone. She is. It's a nice house. Come on and move here. We'll deal with her later. Yeah. That's Beckett.
We're in. You let us know what Thursday you want us, and we're coming.
I will clear the schedule. You look into it. Talk to Bruce.
Oh, we definitely will. We're going to have to call him today.
Excellent.
Well, Sabra, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story and spending your morning with us.
Oh, I loved it. This was a lot of fun. And again, truly appreciate all that you do. You so made a difference in my life.
Oh, you make a difference in ours because I have goosebumps now. I love starting my morning like this.
Yay.
All righty. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, Sabra.
Bye.
She was so cute. I've never heard like her flight story or anything. I just knew she flew with us twice, but that's a pretty powerful story.
Yeah. I feel like that's the thing that we don't realize, because I think that people are just like, oh, you've only helped that person one time. You only helped them get to one treatment. But that is a huge visit for her and her journey.
I know. And I was thinking, I was like, if I needed to go somewhere, do I have somebody who could get me into a major hospital within 3 days? That's incredible.
I was going to make a comment that you better call somebody to get me in, but then I was like, oh, shoot, I'm the sibling that has to call somebody for you.
I was like, your whole family is all doctors or medical personnel.
I know. And that's when I was like, dang it, I can't say that.
I'm very happy she told us who Beckett was, because I was wondering the whole time, because she signs all her emails, your fans, which I think is so cute. Sabra and Beckett. And I was like, who is Beckett? Because she doesn't have a companion listed in viewpoints. And I was like, is it like her child maybe? But it's her cat.
I still didn't get her Instagram name. I need to find it.
I'm going to start signing my emails, Gizzy and Jess.
At least pick like Moo.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a picture in my signature of all of them.
For anybody curious, Jess has a cat and 2 dogs, and the cat is mean. I actually live in fear of walking past Jess's refrigerator because the cat sits on top of it, and I just think I'm going to get like attacked every time.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to her. She was my college cat. I think she's just cursed. It was
Yeah, that sounds about right.
it was a Lancaster cat. We're
Also, can we talk about Bruce?
I can't wait for him to listen to this because he did not want to be on our podcast because he said he has a fear of public speaking.
Bruce, it's not even that public. You're just talking to us. I know you're listening.
He spoke at our gala and he did great.
I just want to tell the listeners about the time that Bruce told one of our passengers that the propeller didn't start unless they got out and pushed really hard on it and spun it. Note to self, that is not how it works.
She thought he was serious. And I was like, oh boy. Or the time he flew to Maine and then videoed us pictures and videos of him walking in the snow. We're like, glad you made it okay. Just in the middle of nowhere in Maine.
Literally. Oh my gosh. The one time he
hilarious.
called me and was just asking me about toasters.
He flew a bunch of PPE for us, and he would always just show up at Wings and ask us the most random questions. But then it made me think, and I always had to Google it.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if that's just what he does while he's up there. Because Bruce flies professionally, not like for an airline, but he like does something with the something.
Ships.
Yeah, some sort of ships in the Chesapeake, and he does the flying to like direct them. I don't know. Bruce is going to listen and be like, that is not what I do.
Like they know nothing about me.
They just know the dumb stuff I do.
Oh man, we really are going to have to call him today because I would like to go to Rochester because then we could see Beth too.
Oh, I would love that.
And I'm pretty sure there's a couple pilots based there too that we could probably bug.
I love any good reason to torture a pilot.
But I want to go to this, or I want to eat one of these garbage plates.
You do? Because every time she mentioned an ingredient, I was like, Jess won't eat that. Jess won't eat that.
I was going to ask for just like the basic garbage plate, hold the baked beans and macaroni salad.
For anybody curious, Jess is the pickiest eater we've ever met. When we go out to lunch with my 2-year-old niece, I order them both the same thing.
I tried to branch out the other day and eat pad thai. It did not go well. I had to order something else. And I think I ordered like chicken fingers.
Oh, man.
But I tried. Well, thank you so much for listening to us ramble again. But we hope you enjoyed Sabra's story and tune in next week.
We'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East. If you want to learn more about our services, please visit our website at www.angelflighteast.org or call our office at 215-358-1900. Join us in our mission. If you're a healthcare worker or a patient in need of air travel and flight services, AFE is here for you. Subscribe to the show so you can hear more stories. Join us again next week right here on Takeoff Talk.